Supreme Commander Nixis stood at the observation deck of the Kythera flagship Eternal Dawn, her crystalline exoskeleton refracting the light of an unfamiliar sun. This marked the 10,000th planetary system to fall under Dominion control, yet something felt different about this conquest. The planet below, designated HD 789, hosted a primitive species that had barely achieved spaceflight. They called themselves humans. Supreme Commander, First Officer Ixil's voice chimed through the neural network. The human representatives request another audience. They claim to have a counter-proposal to our terms of surrender. Nixis's bioluminescent patterns flickered with amusement. The audacity of these creatures never ceased to entertain her. Very well, she responded. Let them present their futile arguments once more. The holographic chamber activated, and 3 human figures materialized before her. Their lead negotiator, Admiral James Sullivan, stood tall despite his species' obvious physical limitations. No exoskeleton, no natural weapons, just soft flesh and determination. Supreme Commander Nixis, Sullivan began, his voice steady. We've reviewed your demands for Earth's immediate surrender and resource appropriation. The United Earth Government has authorized me to present an alternative, peaceful coexistence and trade. Laughter rippled through the Kythera command crew's shared consciousness. In 10,000 years of expansion, no species had ever offered them alternatives. They simply submitted or perished. Admiral Sullivan, Nixis responded, her translator converting her crystalline resonances into human speech. Your persistence is remarkable, if misguided. The Kythera Dominion does not negotiate with pre-ascendant species. Your civilization has yet to achieve even basic quantum folding or consciousness transfer. You are, by definition, inferior. Sullivan's expression remained unchanged. With respect, Commander, technological advancement isn't the only measure of a civilization's worth. Humanity has qualities you may find surprising. Such as Nixis's patterns pulsed with barely contained derision. Adaptability. Creativity. And above all, resilience. Sullivan's eyes seemed to harden. We've studied your previous conquests, Commander. 57 species, all technologically superior to humanity, all falling within standard deviations of predicted resistance patterns. But we are different. Nixis moved closer to the hologram, her crystalline form towering over the human projection. Different? Your entire defense fleet consists of fewer ships than we allocate to a minor border patrol. Your weapons are crude projectiles and chemical explosives. Your cities would crumble at the mere touch of our tertiary weapon systems. Numbers and raw power aren't everything, Commander. This is your final opportunity to withdraw. After this, whatever happens will be on your conscience, not ours. The warning triggered another wave of amusement through the Kythera neural network. These humans and their bizarre concept of conscience, as if beings of pure logic and crystalline perfection would be bound by such primitive notions. You have 24 of your Earth hours to surrender unconditionally, Nixis declared. After that, we will begin the standard purification protocol. Your species may apply for protected status and limited autonomy once the process is complete. Sullivan nodded slowly. Then you've made your choice. Remember this moment, Commander. Remember that we tried to prevent what comes next. The hologram flickered out, leaving Nixis alone with her thoughts and the collective consciousness of her crew. First Officer Ixil approached, his crystalline form vibrating with concern. Supreme Commander, there is something unusual about these humans. Their biological readings during the negotiation showed no fear, no elevated stress responses. It's as if they truly believe they can resist us. Nixis completed the thought. All species exhibit denial in their final hours, Ixil. It's a universal constant we've observed countless times. But as she gazed down at the blue-green world below, something nagged at the edges of her perfect crystalline consciousness. In 10,000 years of conquest, no species had ever warned them. They had begged, threatened, attempted to bargain, but warn. As if they were the ones in danger. Begin the purification countdown, she commanded, pushing aside her doubts. Standard protocol, orbital bombardment of military installations, followed by systematic civilian center reduction. Let's show these humans exactly how different they aren't. As the mighty engines of the eternal dawn hummed to life and the weapon systems began their warming sequence, Nixis allowed herself a moment of reflection. In the grand history of the Kith-era dominion, this would be but another footnote, another primitive species learning its place in the cosmic hierarchy. She couldn't have known that in the depths of Earth's military installations, in hardened bunkers and hidden bases, humanity was about to demonstrate exactly how different they truly were. The lesson was about to begin, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the Kith-era would find themselves on the learning end of history's brutal teachings. The first signs that something was wrong came 3 minutes into the purification protocol. Supreme Commander Nixis watched as the initial wave of bombardment ships moved into position above Earth's major military installations. Everything proceeded according to the patterns established over 10 millennia of successful conquests. Then the ships started disappearing. Not exploding, not failing, simply vanishing from both visual and quantum sensors. One moment they existed, the next they didn't. No debris, no energy signatures, no death cries across the neural network. Just, absence. Report. Nixis demanded, her crystalline form vibrating with the first hints of uncertainty she'd felt in centuries. First Officer Ixal's patterns pulsed with confusion. Unknown weapon signature, Supreme Commander. Our sensors detect no conventional energy emissions, no projectiles, no. His voice cut off as another squadron winked out of existence. Impossible, Nixis whispered, watching as gaps appeared in their perfect formation. Their technology is primitive. They don't even have basic fold capabilities. A new voice cut through their command network, Admiral Sullivan's, but different now. Gone was the diplomatic tone, replaced by something cold and final. You mistake absence of evidence for evidence of absence, Commander. Humanity learned long ago the value of keeping our true capabilities hidden. The holographic projectors sparked to life, but instead of showing human figures, they displayed a three-dimensional map of the Kith-era fleet. Red dots began appearing, marking ships that had already vanished. The pattern was deliberate, methodical, they were being systematically dismantled. Launch all remaining squadrons. Nixis commanded, her perfect composure cracking. Initiate emergency protocols. Begin quantum space transition. Quantum drive is not responding, Ixal reported, his patterns showing clear distress. Something is interfering with our fold calculations. We're trapped in normal space. The humans' voices echoed through every communication channel, every neural frequency. Did you think you were the only ones who could evolve? That crystal consciousness was the peak of development. Humanity took a different path, we merged with our machines centuries ago, but kept the charade of separation to avoid frightening our neighbors. Nixis watched in horror as small objects began appearing near their remaining ships, devices barely larger than human fighters, but radiating energy signatures that defied analysis. Fall back to defensive positions. Raise all shields. But the shields, their impenetrable crystalline barriers that had withstood the weapons of countless civilizations, seemed to mean nothing. The human devices passed through them as if they weren't there. Your shields operate on principles we mastered and discarded generations ago, Sullivan's voice continued. While you perfected your crystalline technology, we explored thousands of alternate paths. Quantum mechanics, dark energy manipulation, consciousness transference across dimensional boundaries, we learned that true advancement means never becoming trapped in a single paradigm. The Eternal Dawn sensors began registering impossible readings. Space itself seemed to be folding around them, but not in the crude manner of their quantum drives. This was something else, something that shouldn't be possible with known physics. You had your chance to walk away, Sullivan reminded them. Now you'll learn why humanity has survived every crisis we've ever faced. We're not just adaptable, we're transformation incarnate. Nixis watched as her mighty fleet, the pride of the Kithera Dominion, was systematically reduced. Some ships imploded, crushed by forces that ignored all known laws of physics. Others simply ceased to exist, transported to unknown destinations by the humans' impossible technology. A few began to transform, their crystalline structures reorganizing at the molecular level as nanoscale invaders rewrote their very essence. Stop, she broadcast on all frequencies. We surrender. This isn't possible. You're supposed to be primitive. Primitive? Sullivan's laugh held no humor. We showed you exactly what we wanted you to see. Every scanner you pointed at Earth revealed exactly the level of technology we chose to display. Every analysis you ran was guided to the conclusions we wanted you to reach. While your civilization spent millennia perfecting a single path of evolution, we explored millions. The Eternal Dawn shuddered as new readings appeared on their sensors. The human devices had surrounded them in a perfect sphere, and space itself seemed to be warping. Your conquest ends here, Sullivan declared. But this doesn't have to be your end. Unlike you, we don't believe in unnecessary extinction. Surrender, and you'll learn that humanity's capacity for mercy equals our capacity for war. Nixis stood frozen, her crystalline mind struggling to process the impossible reality before her. In all the histories of the Dominion, in all the carefully preserved memories of 10,000 years of conquest, nothing like this had ever happened. They were the advanced ones, the superior beings, the perfect evolution of life. But as she watched another squadron of ships vanish into whatever dimensional spaces the humans commanded, she realized their fundamental error. They had mistaken technological focus for advancement, and in doing so, they had awakened something far beyond their comprehension. Full surrender, she broadcast, her patterns dim with defeat. The Kithera Dominion submits to human authority. The response was immediate, but not what she expected. Not to our authority, Sullivan corrected. To peaceful coexistence. That was always the option we preferred. Remember that, Supreme Commander. Remember that when we had absolute power over you, we chose peace. As the human devices began standing down, Nixis realized that the true lesson was only beginning. The galaxy was not what they had thought, and humanity was about to show them just how much they had yet to learn. The crystalline spires of Kithera Prime sparkled under the light of 3 suns, their perfect geometries a testament to 10,000 years of unwavering evolution. In the central command nexus, Grand Architect Rylax interfaced with the planetary defense grid, her consciousness expanding through networks that had never known defeat. The humans approach, she announced to the assembled High Council, her thought patterns rippling through the collective consciousness. They will find that conquering a border fleet is quite different from breaching the cradle of our civilization. The defensive systems of Kithera Prime were considered the pinnacle of crystalline technology. 3 overlapping arrays of quantum-locked shields, powered by the energy of an artificially sustained neutron star. Automated response systems that could predict and counter any known form of attack. And at the heart of it all, the Grand Matrix, a quantum computer evolved from the combined consciousness of 1 billion Kithera minds. High Chancellor Voss's patterns showed careful confidence. Let them come. Even their impossible weapons cannot breach defenses that took millennia to perfect. The first human ships appeared at the edge of the system, sleek, dark vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their formation was unlike anything in Kithera tactical databases, a constantly shifting pattern that defied prediction algorithms. They number only 50 ships, Rylax reported, her confidence growing. Against our home defenses? This is either madness or we still don't understand them, interrupted a voice from the council chamber's shadows. Supreme Commander Nixis stepped forward, her once brilliant crystalline form now dulled by defeat. After surrendering the border fleet, she had been brought back to face judgment. I thought as you do, once. I was wrong. You were weak, Voss dismissed. You faced primitive trickery and lost your nerve. Here, at the heart of our power, we will show these humans the true might of the Kythera. The human fleet came to a stop just outside weapons range. A transmission cut through all frequencies, bypassing encryption as if it didn't exist. A new voice, not Sullivan's, but equally resolved. This is Fleet Admiral Reyna Patel of the United Earth Defense Force. Your species has committed acts of unprovoked aggression against multiple civilizations. Surrender your defensive capabilities and submit to monitored disarmament, or we will be forced to demonstrate our resolve again. Voss's response was immediate: we are Kythera. We evolved beyond surrender millennia ago. Come, humans. Break yourselves against our perfect defense. For a moment, nothing happened. The human ships remained motionless, seemingly hesitant before the mighty defenses of Kythera Prime. Then Nixus noticed something odd about their formation. "They're singing," she whispered. Before anyone could question her apparent madness, they all heard it, not with their auditory sensors, but with their crystalline bodies themselves. A resonance that started at the edge of perception and grew steadily stronger. The perfect crystalline spires of the city began to vibrate in harmony. "Impossible," Rylax breathed, watching as fractal patterns of resonance spread through the planetary shield grid. "They're using our own crystalline nature against us. The shields, they're becoming part of the resonance chamber." The human ships began moving, each one adding its own frequency to the growing symphony of destruction. The defensive shields, designed to be impenetrable by any force, were being transformed into conductors of their own undoing. "Shut down the grid," Voss commanded. "Switch to secondary systems." "We can't," Rylax's patterns showed increasing panic. "The resonance, it's affecting the Grand Matrix itself. Our collective consciousness is becoming part of their weapon." Nixus watched in horrified fascination as the humans demonstrated yet another path of evolution they had mastered. Not just technology, not just physics, but the fundamental understanding of how all things were connected. They hadn't brought a superior force to break the Kythera defenses, they had turned the defense itself into the weapon. The crystalline spires of the city began to sing, each one a tuning fork in a planet-sized orchestra of destruction. But instead of shattering, as simple resonance would cause, they began to transform. The rigid molecular structures that had defined Kythera architecture for millennia became fluid, responsive, alive in a way they had never been before. "Do you understand now?" Nixus asked the stunned council. While we pursued perfection along a single path, they learned to dance between all paths. They're not destroying our civilization, they're showing us what it could become. The human ships began landing, unopposed by defensive systems that now sang in harmony with them. Admiral Patel's voice came again: "Your defensive grid is now under our control, but we haven't destroyed it. Look around you. Feel what your crystalline technology can truly achieve when freed from the constraints of your rigid evolution." The council chamber fell silent as the Kythera struggled to process what they were witnessing. Their perfect, unchanging civilization had been transformed not through destruction, but through a fundamental reimagining of what their own technology could achieve. 10,000 years, Rylax whispered, her patterns showing a mix of fear and wonder. 10,000 years we thought we were evolving, but we were only refining. They showed us true evolution in a matter of hours. As human peacekeeping forces began establishing control over the planet's key systems, Nixus turned to the High Council. "We have a choice now. We can cling to our illusion of perfection and be left behind by the universe, or we can learn from those we thought beneath us. The humans aren't here to end our civilization, they're here to show us how to begin it anew." The crystalline spires continued their transformed song, a melody of change echoing across a world that had forgotten how to adapt. The age of Kythera supremacy was over, but perhaps something far more remarkable was about to begin. In the transformed Grand Chamber of what was once the High Council, former Supreme Commander Nixus watched as human scientists worked alongside Kythera researchers. The crystalline walls, once static and unyielding, now pulsed with flowing patterns of light, a visible symbol of the change sweeping through their civilization. "Your people adapt quickly," observed Admiral Patel, who had taken personal command of the reconstruction effort. Unlike most humans, she chose not to wear an environmental suit, instead relying on some invisible field to protect her from the crystal world's harsh atmosphere. Most species take years to accept such fundamental changes. Nixis's patterns shifted in what humans had learned to recognize as a rueful smile. "We had no choice but to adapt. You showed us that our perfect stasis was actually perfect stagnation." The humans' approach to victory had shattered every assumption the Kithera held about warfare, civilization, and evolution itself. Instead of destroying their conquered enemies, they had immediately begun helping them advance. Where the Kithera had expected execution or enslavement, they found mentorship and collaboration. "Tell me something," Nixis ventured, watching a human quantum physicist explaining multidimensional mathematics to a group of enthralled Kithera youth. "Your species had the power to obliterate us completely. Our scans show your weapons could have shattered our planet to its core. Why choose this path instead?" Patel's dark eyes reflected the crystalline lights. "Because destruction is easy, Commander. Any species can learn to destroy. The true measure of advancement is knowing when not to use your power. We learned that lesson the hard way, long ago." A holographic display activated in the chamber's center, showing the ongoing transformation of Kithera Prime. The rigid crystal cities were gradually becoming living structures, responsive to their inhabitants' needs. The quantum-locked shields that once demanded enormous energy now operated in harmony with natural spatial frequencies, stronger than ever while requiring a fraction of the power. "But more than that," Patel continued, "we recognized something in your people. The same drive that once pushed us to the stars. The same desire for perfection. You simply became trapped in a single definition of what perfection meant." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Junior Science Officer Trellix, one of the youngest Kithera to embrace the humans' teachings. Her crystalline form sparkled with excitement as she projected her latest research findings, a new method of consciousness transfer that combined Kithera crystalline technology with human quantum principles. "Admiral, Commander, look." Her patterns blazed with enthusiasm. "By applying human resonance theories to our traditional consciousness matrices, we can achieve transfer rates orders of magnitude beyond our previous capabilities. The applications for healing, learning, even space travel are endless." Patel smiled warmly at the young researcher's excitement. "Excellent work, Trellix. This is exactly why we believe in rehabilitation over retribution. Every species has something unique to contribute to the galactic community." Nixis felt a deep resonance in her crystalline core. "You knew this would happen, didn't you? When you first approached our fleet with offers of peace. You already understood that our technology, combined with your innovations, could achieve things neither of us could manage alone." "We had hopes," Patel admitted. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our adaptability. It's our ability to see potential in others, even in those who initially stand as enemies." The chamber's doors dissolved, another new feature of their transformed architecture, admitting a delegation of representatives from worlds the Kithera had previously conquered. Species that had lived under their dominion for centuries now came seeking partnership in this new age. "The hardest part," Patel observed, watching the former oppressors and oppressed begin tentative diplomatic discussions, "will be learning to trust both yourselves and others. Your people spent millennia believing in their own superiority. That kind of mindset doesn't change overnight." "No," Nixis agreed, "but we have something now that we never had before, proof that we were wrong. Every day, we see new evidence that the path forward lies not in isolation and supremacy, but in collaboration and growth." Through the chamber's transparent walls, they could see the three suns of Kithera Prime setting, their light creating complex interference patterns in the transformed crystalline structures of the city. Where once those patterns would have been static, predetermined by rigid architectural principles, they now flowed and evolved, each moment unique and beautiful. There will be resistance, Nixis noted, thinking of the conservative factions who still clung to the old ways. Some among us argue that we've abandoned our heritage, betrayed the pure evolution of our species. Patel's response was immediate and firm. Show them this. She gestured to Trellix and her fellow young researchers, to the visiting diplomats, to the city itself. Show them that evolution isn't about becoming more rigid, more isolated, more pure. It's about becoming more connected, more adaptable, more alive. A group of human children entered the chamber, part of a cultural exchange program. Unlike their parents, they needed no protection from the crystal world's environment. Their bodies had already been adapted through a combination of human bioengineering and Kith-era crystalline technology. They moved through the space with easy grace, their laughter creating ripples in the responsive architecture. That, Patel said softly, is the future we fight for. Not conquest, not dominion, but growth. The ability to take the best of all worlds and create something new and wonderful. Nixis watched the children play, their forms casting rainbow refractions across the chamber. In their innocent joy, she saw the truth that had eluded her people for 10,000 years. Perfection wasn't a destination to be reached, but a journey to be shared. We thought we were teaching the galaxy about advancement, she mused. Instead, we needed to learn what true advancement means. The transformed spires of Kith-era Prime sang their endless song into the gathering night, no longer a hymn to stasis and supremacy, but an ever-changing melody of growth and possibility. The price of arrogance had been high, but the reward for learning from it would echo through generations to come. 20 years after the transformation of Kith-era Prime, former Supreme Commander Nixis stood before the Galactic Council of United Species. Her crystalline form, once rigid and unchanging, now flowed with subtle patterns that reflected her emotional state, a visible symbol of how far her people had come. The chamber itself was a marvel of collaborative engineering, combining the architectural principles of a dozen species. Crystalline supports merged seamlessly with organic structures, while quantum field generators maintained comfortable environments for representatives of vastly different biological needs. At the center, the combined flags of Earth and Kith-era Prime flew side by side, equal partners in the new galactic order. Members of the Council, Nixis began, her patterns shifting to Project Calm Authority. I stand before you on this 20th anniversary of what we once called our defeat, but now recognize as our awakening. I am here to share the final results of our civilization's transformation. The assembled representatives, human, Kith-era, and members of countless other species, gave her their full attention. Many remembered when the Kith-era had been the terror of the galaxy, an unstoppable force of conquest and subjugation. 2 decades ago, we believed ourselves to be the pinnacle of evolution. We had spent 10,000 years perfecting our crystalline technology, our unified consciousness, our supposed superiority. She paused, letting her patterns show a hint of what humans would call rueful amusement. We were like a tree that had grown tall and straight, but had never learned to bend in the wind. Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing the transformation of Kith-era society. Cities that once stood as monuments to unchanging perfection now flowed and adapted to their inhabitants' needs. Young Kith-era children played alongside humans and other species, their crystalline forms shifting and changing as they explored new ways of being. The humans could have destroyed us, Nixis continued. Their technology, hidden beneath a carefully maintained facade of primitiveness, could have shattered our worlds to atoms. Instead, they chose to show us something far more powerful than destruction, the possibility of change. Admiral Patel, now serving as Earth's primary representative to the Council, nodded slightly. The years had silvered her hair, but her eyes remained as sharp as ever. Our scientists had theorized that humans would be simple to understand. A young species, barely out of their gravity well, with predictable patterns of behavior. Nixis's patterns rippled with what had become her species' equivalent of laughter. We could not have been more wrong. While we perfected a single path, humanity had explored millions. While we sought to impose order, they had learned to thrive in chaos. While we built walls, they built bridges. The displays shifted to show the latest achievements of human Kythera collaboration, ships that combined crystalline consciousness with human quantum engineering, capable of crossing galaxies in days. Medical technologies that could heal injuries once thought permanent. Educational systems that merged the best of both species' approaches to learning and growth. But the greatest lesson, Nixis continued, wasn't about technology or power. It was about the true nature of advancement. We had believed that evolution meant becoming more perfect, more pure, more isolated in our superiority. Humanity showed us that real evolution means becoming more connected, more adaptable, more alive to the infinite possibilities of existence. She gestured to a group of young Kythera delegates, their forms incorporating innovations that would have been unthinkable 2 decades ago. Our children no longer grow up learning about the superiority of their species. Instead, they learn about the strength that comes from diversity, the wisdom that can be found in difference, the power that emerges from collaboration. The chamber's crystalline elements hummed in harmony with her words, a technology that merged Kythera resonance principles with human theories of quantum harmony. 20 years ago, we thought ourselves the teachers of the galaxy. Today, we understand the joy of being eternal students. Our civilization hasn't weakened or fallen, as some conservatives feared. Instead, we have grown in ways we never imagined possible. Nixis's patterns shifted to their most formal configuration as she delivered her conclusion. The price of arrogance was high, but the rewards of humility have been beyond measure. We stand before you not as conquerors or conquered, but as partners in the great dance of cosmic evolution. Our story serves as both warning and promise, a reminder that true strength lies not in domination, but in the courage to change and grow. The chamber erupted in appreciation, each species expressing approval in their own way. The crystalline architecture sang with harmonic resonances, while biological representatives added their voices to the celebration. Human and Kythera children in the observation galleries created spontaneous light shows with their combined technologies. Later, in a quiet moment after the session, Admiral Patel approached Nixis. "A powerful testimony," she said softly. "Though I notice you left out the part about how close we came to actual conflict." Nixis's patterns showed warm acknowledgement. "Because that's not the important part of the story, is it? The universe has enough tales of war and victory. What it needs are more stories about transcending the impulse to destroy, about finding better ways forward." Together, they watched the sunset through the chamber's transparent walls, its light creating ever-changing patterns in the crystalline structures. Each pattern was unique, never to be repeated, yet part of an endless dance of possibility. The true revolution, Nixis mused, wasn't in our technology or our society. It was in our understanding of what it means to be truly advanced. We thought we were teaching the galaxy about perfection, but we needed to learn that perfection isn't about becoming unchangeable. It's about embracing the perfect imperfection of endless growth. The light faded into darkness, but the crystalline cities continued their eternal song, no longer a hymn to stasis and superiority, but an ever-changing symphony of life, growth, and unlimited potential.